This is what to do if he wants to touch you all over.
I would like to touch you all over.
No, I'm saving myself for marriage.
No problem. And that was a hypothetical.
problem.
I would never do something like that.
This is what to do if he asks to take things back to his place.
You want to take things back to my place?
Whoa, I think we should set a boundary here because that makes me uncomfortable.
Dang it. Again, that was a hypothetical. Never do that.
That's right. Send this to your easiest friend.
That has nothing at all to do with what I'm about to talk about. But it was hilarious, and I just started the video out with it because why not? But this is what the video is going to be about. I was sitting in my room earlier, and I had a thought, just thinking about people and my interactions with them, the things that I observe, and the sort of like, I won't say in my experiences, I don't lack intimate connections with people, but I watch people sort of float through life, and it does seem, from my point of view, that they do lack intimate, meaningful connections with people. And it seems like most of the time, the people that I know, not the people that I know, but the people that I observe, they don't usually have very meaningful relationships with people. I see people have yay. See, one of my friends is on the way right now. Sorry, I'm sending her the address. I'm so sorry. Sorry, I was giving her the address and I was telling her that my house is a mess, but I don't give a fuck. I wash clothes. I have a pile of clothes right here that I need to wash. But anyway, I mean, fold. But anyway, so the way that I observe people, it seems as if they don't have a lot of meaningful relationships, whether they're platonic or not. I watch people kind of fly by the seat of their pants, and they go through life sort of like smoking people like cigarettes. I've come across people that sort of treat me the same way in a way. I have a lot of meaningful friendships and relationships with people, whether it's family or just people that I met at work or at school or whatever it might be. And most of my friends in my life have been in my life for at least 10 years. Uh, I can't actually think of anyone that are like super close, maybe besides this young lady that I'm texting right now. I've been knowing her for a few years, but I would consider us to be pretty close too. But most of my friends that know me on any intimate level, I've been knowing them for at least 10 years. And most of them are well over 10 years. Like some are, I've had friendships that are 25 years long and I'm only 36. I've had friendships that are, about 30 years long and I'm only 36. But I watch other people sort of float through this life, and they can't really attach themselves to anything. They sort of sample people. And this thought came over me, and this is what I wrote. If you could see it here, I wrote, I stay to myself a lot and I observe. What I see is a bunch of people, male and female, craving connection and love, but too afraid to give it due to the fear of being used, disappointed, or humiliated. I see people misguided into believing that they have unlimited options, so they discard people like waste and smoke people like cigarettes. So instead of nurturing relationships and pouring into people that could potentially be great for them, they dwell in fear and dish out hurt before they themselves can be hurt. They choose the fleeting because it requires less of them, doomed to repeat because nothing is being learned and no reflection is being done. You know, I believe the advent, the introduction of social media has put us in a position to where we look at people as sort of like fodder, like they're NPCs in our story and we are the main character. Everyone has main character syndrome. You know, and I'm old enough to be a part of something and to be connected to a time where relationships was all that you had. Whether you're trying to make it in music, whether you're trying to come up in the corporate world, you have to build relationships with people. You have to speak to people. You have to speak to people, and you have to nurture relationships with people, because the same people that you come across on your way up are the same people that you will come across on your way down, inevitably. You know, I'm connected to a time where people spoke to each other and they built relationships with each other, and that is the foundation, that is the basis of your life. Where now social media sort of presents people as windows that you peer into as time goes on, and you sort of sample them and you use it as entertainment versus you being a part of it, or versus you being willing to help people. The people that I deal with, the people that I talk to, the people that are in my life, I fuck with them pretty much every day for the last 30 years of my life. From my cousins to my friends that I met at work. You know, when I do this podcast, the Guys Are Watching podcast on my channel, it is with 4 or 5 friends that I have been knowing since I was very, very young. My cousin I've been knowing since I was literally a baby. That's obvious. You know, we have pictures. He's 5 years older than me. We have pictures together where I'm literally a baby and he's a 5-year-old, 6-year-old boy. Um, the other 2 friends, my friend Edward and Brandon, I knew them since I was 18. It was my first job. I went into that job. I worked there for about 4 years. I met them there, and I got to know them within the first few months of me being there. And we have never lost contact. Oh, me and Edward did. We kind of fell out over some little kitty bullshit, but we gained contact again maybe back in 2016, 2015. We stopped talking for a few years, and me and Edward, we've been talking since then. That was the break. It was over some shit that that happened between us. Me and Brandon, we've never lost contact. He's moved to different states. He's lived in California. He's lived in Illinois. He's lived in different places, and we've never lost contact. We've always found a way to sort of stay in contact. My friend Ojo, aka Brazil, he has been my friend since about 2004, 2005, and he was sort of like an ancillary friend because Derek used to work with him. My cousin used to work with him at a job, and they became friends, and he's never left the scene since then. It's been 20 years. You know, he's not related to me by any blood, but he may as well be, because the things that I would do for him outweigh the things that I would do for people that I am blood related to. The way that in which he knows me or supports me, and the way that I know him and I support him are far beyond the relationships that I built within my own family in a lot of cases, you know. And that's the way that I decided to design my life in terms of my friendships and my relationships. That's important to me. When I love a person, I don't love them just for the sport of it. I love them for a reason. It's something that I like about them. It's a way that in which that we interact and we support each other. The way that we are aligned in our beliefs and our views, going through this life as 2 people, plop down into this reality, and you align with the people that sort of you relate to in the way that they relate to the world. It's similar to the way that you relate to the world. The opinions that you have, or the things that you agree or disagree with. That's very important to me, because without these people, my sister, my mom, my father, my kids, the women that I've had the privilege of being in love with, that matters to me. It allows you to go through this life with someone, which makes it easier tenfold, you know, which is why I can't understand the people that do not nurture relationships and they sort of use people as, they're like playing cards to them. They use people like they're some sort of plaything. It's like it's a joke to them or something. I see people every time you see them, they're with a different friend group. Uh, every time you see them, they're calling someone new their best friend. To me, that's kind of disturbing in a way. It's so fake. When I see people like that and they're calling everybody their best friend, and it takes nothing for them to deem someone their best friend, it makes it seem like you're insane or something. Like you seem very, very disjointed and kind of manic and frantic in your movements. And I don't trust people like that. But to get deeper into my point, though, what I was mentioning about social media is that it's kind of given us this way of looking at people like they're, like they aren't real, like they're just profiles on an app. So people treat each other like it doesn't matter. They talk to people any kind of way. They don't care about being, uh, having any sort of integrity when it comes to the way that they deal with people, because they figure, well, shit, what does it matter? There's plenty of people that like me. I got 5,000 followers. What do you matter? You know what I mean? And I typically see that in younger people, and it probably will change as they get older and they start to place value on relationships. I don't know. I can't walk in their shoes. I don't know what it's like to be them, but I do know that the way that I watch these younger people operate, or even some people that are older or even my age, the way that I watch them operate, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, you have men that are running around trying to rack up a body count because to them it's a badge of honor. I get it in some regards. I get it. I've never been that kind of guy. I don't have the numbers. I have the quality. I have a lot of the quality. The women that I dealt with, I feel like, you know, they wouldn't touch you niggas. Some of the women that I deal with, I pride myself on, not all of them. I dealt with some whores for sure. I've dealt with some whores, but a lot of the women that I've dealt with are like the quality of woman that I could be proud to have on my arm or to be proud to have on my sheet. You know what I mean? I could tell you that I hit this woman or I fucked with this woman or I was in a relationship with this woman, and it's like you could never fuck with her. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not you, nigga. You know. And that's the way that I want it. I don't pride myself in having a bunch of bodies. That's not the type of nigga that I ever have been. Um, and then you have women that, they bounce from dick to dick because they're not attached to anything. They don't care about anybody. They don't even know how to care about anybody. They weren't raised that way because nobody really cared about them. So now they're out here just floating around looking for this feeling in people, not knowing that it's a fleeting thing and you're going to feel worse once it's over. You're sampling people like you're walking through Sam's Club. That's not a good place to be for a male or a female. You have to do. I don't have to do anything, but I feel like you should live your life with intention. You should be sort of what's the word that's right here on the tip of my mind. You have to sort of be methodical about the way that you move through this life, man, because not being methodical will take you down a road that you don't want to be down. Whether that's having children with multiple women and shit like that, or being a woman and having 18 baby daddies because you can't close your legs and you just can't give up the sensation of sex, and you can't move with any intelligence to sort of like set yourself up to prevent these things going forward. No intentionality. That's the name of the game. It's like you're setting yourself up for failure in the long run. And I don't like that. I don't like seeing that. And that's the way that I see people deal with each other. We can go deeper, and there's many layers to this concept, like the lack of community that we've all sort of like been without for decades now. Every neighborhood is different, every city is different, every person is different. I built a community through my brotherhoods, through my friendships. We have our own community. They have children, I have children. We get our children together. Overall, under this umbrella that we have constructed for ourselves, we all sort of have the same goal, the same outlook, and the same morals and stuff like that, even though there are differences between us all, because we're all individuals at the end of the day, and we're all not going to see everything the same way. But I built community sort of like after the fact or artificially through my relationships. But overall, the world kind of lacks relationships now. I mean, community now. We have sort of all retreated into our homes, and we've become more individualistic in the way that we reared and raised our families, and we don't really interact and commingle in that way anymore in terms of raising our families together. Me and my friends do. We raise our families together. My friend's daughter is sort of like my daughter or like my little niece or something. And he can call me and say, I can't make it. Can you go pick her up from school? I can't do this. Can you help me? Can you come help me do this? Let's go to the park and take our kids there. And when we do go to those places, I'm looking out for their kids the same way that I would look out for mine. Where are they at? Is anybody bothering them? Do you need help? Make sure you come holler at me if something happened. You know what I mean? And that's the way that I deal with their children. And but most people in my humble opinion and the way that I've seen the world, most people don't really move that way. It's all about individual. It's all about for self. And people don't really care about other people. They look at them as obstacles. I don't really like people. I don't like people in general. I just don't like people. So I kind of keep my distance, but it's because of the way in which people have treated me over time. It's from experience. I don't feel this way for no reason. But when I do connect with a person, I try to make sure that this is a person of substance. This is a person of good character. This is a person I can trust with myself, my emotions, because you can't expect to be around somebody for any length of time, for any extended length of time, and not expose the person that you truly are to them. So if I'm going to do that, inevitably, can I trust you with that? Can I trust you with telling you my kids' names? Can I trust you with bringing my children around me? Because typically, if I'm going to be somewhere, sooner or later, my kids are probably going to be there with me. Can I trust you with that? Can I bring my children around and trust that you won't act erratically or start trouble that would endanger me and my children in the process? Those things matter to me. I was talking to this young lady earlier that I just met a few weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago at this point. I met her for the first time. She seems very intelligent, wise, cool person. We sort of vibe well together in, these professional settings that I met her in. And just a minute ago, we were sort of talking. So I put up this post. That's what started the conversation. She responded to this post, and she said, sadly, this is true. Unfortunately, this is actual and factual. I said, yeah, and I told her that I try to be very intentional as a result of these things and the way that people move. I try to be intentional when I do meet people. And most of my friendships, I told her, most of my friendships are decades long and they last for a long time because once I love you, I probably won't ever stop loving you. That's just who I am. And she said, well, that explains why when you met me, you literally asked me, like, where you come from? And I did. I asked her, I'm like, so what's your story? Where you come from? Like, what you doing here? Because of this room that I was standing in it with people that I've been knowing for several years and I've been working with professionally or otherwise, dealing with in some capacity for a long time. And here she is. Now, I'm not saying that she didn't fit into the room. I didn't feel uncomfortable or unsafe. I instantly got a vibe and an energy from her. Like she's trustworthy. She seems to be intelligent and she seems to be sort of like cut from the same cloth that all these other people in this room are cut from. That says a lot. And I'm a pretty good judge of character most of the time. But I asked her, where you come from? What's your story? Why how we know you? Jokingly, but I'm serious too a little bit. And she like, oh, I went to school with such and such, and I'm just around because I like helping people and shit like that. So, that kind of kicked off our little interaction, and now I consider her a friend, albeit a very new one. I consider her a friend. I put her on FaceTime with my kids while we were there, and that says a lot because typically I keep people away from my kids. Don't talk to my kids. I don't even want you looking at my kids. I don't, short of when my children walk into the room, I ask them to speak to these people because that's just a respectful thing that I think every man should learn how to do. When you enter the room, speak to people. I don't know what it's like in terms of like how you carry yourself and what sort of respects you should show people as a woman. I don't know what it is like, what etiquette is like for women, but I'm raising two sons. So I teach them when you enter a room, speak to people, shake their hands or say what's up. And if they speak to you, you make sure you speak back loudly and clearly and look them in the eye. That's what I teach. But other than that, if I don't fuck with you, don't say shit to my kids. Don't say nothing to my kids. I'm very protective, almost to a fault. I don't like it when people say anything to or about my children if I have not granted you that power, because I'm very sensitive about those two little kids. I'm very sensitive about them. The only people that can really check me about my children, and even then I have a hard time accepting it, is like my mother, my father, my family, my friends that I consider family. But if you're outside that circle, just go ahead, shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? But, I'm rambling. But again, that's the point of this show. But, I want people to sort of be cognizant of the relationships that they build and the people that they welcome into their lives. I know people had the YOLO saying, and they're supposed to, they're sort of just going for the experiences. And I get that. I've done those things too. But I am very guarded, and I do choose the people that enter my life carefully, because once you are in this shit, it's like the mob. It ain't no getting out. Once I love you, I love you. I'm not saying that literally, because there are plenty of people that have entered my life that are gone. I'm not holding you hostage, and I'm not forcing you to be my friend. But the people that I've loved, I still love them. Most of them. Some people that I've loved, I hate them now. But to me, love can sort of be another form of hate or something like that, or the other way around. Hate can be another form of love. Because truly being indifferent means that you don't feel one way or the other. You don't care. If someone is inconsequential to you, they don't matter to you, why would you ever feel passionately enough to hate them? That's because that's sort of like a mutation or a derivative of love, if you will. That's the way that I feel. I hate your ass. I don't know. But even I don't agree with that, because I hate some people that I never loved before. But whatever. My point is, be intentional about the people that you let into your life, and stop treating people like they're NPCs in your fictional world. Everyone is real, bro. Stop, jumping from friend group to friend group, placing yourself in these complicated positions, wondering why your life is so turbulent. Connect yourself to something real. That's all I got. I'm out. My dog about to pull up with some pizza, I think. And we about to kick it. I ain't seen her in about a month and a half. So, holla at me. Damn, where my outro video at? I keep taking it off.